I'm just going to make this quick just to cut to the chase. This is a third recorded conversation with my Pawpaw Terry and I. This was recorded April 2nd, let's see, about a week or two ago. And with Pawpaw Terry, he shared me a lot more fascinating things from his brother and my Uncle Timmy. Tim singing those hilariously dirty song to his childhood dogs, Hobo and the Tramp. Hobo, Tramp, get it? So anyway, this is for my family members to love and enjoy when he goes, and hope that this will be to hear his voice and to love and remember him. Remember, just like the other two. Just want to get this out here real quick, because I love my Pawpaw Terry. And this for alongside edits of my grandma slightly biting after I told her specifically to be quiet. But family members, at least it's more genuine that way. Anyway, hope you all enjoy it, and just remember, your grandfather loves you, and hope no matter what. Now, I'm gonna go have some condensed milk. It's been a while since I have that. Enjoy. Thank you for your time to have time to talk, Pawpaw Terry. I appreciate it very much.
Pawpaw's always ready, glad to talk to you, Cal.
How has Uncle Timmy and Michelle been recently?
They're doing good. I hadn't been up there lately, but I talked to him. He's doing all right. He can't get around like he used to. And he don't come down here, but I see him when I go up to his house, He's been here a time or two, but not many times. But he's a homebody, I guess, more or less. And he got a lot of medicine to take too, and he don't get around quite as good as Pawpaw does, But he went through a lot with his cancer, because he had lung cancer and he had a tumor on his brain that they had to remove, and it knocked him down a couple notches, but I'll go up there and sit on his porch and we'll talk about old times, because we wasn't that far apart in age, and we both went to school together. And then he come to work at the power company right after I did, and so we both worked like over 30 years out there together. We wasn't always together working, but he was out there working, and I seen him a lot, so I got to spend a lot of time with him like that. And then since he's retired, well, he wouldn't have retired as early as he wanted to keep working, but his health wouldn't let him, So I go up and see him every so often, and when the weather's good, so we can sit out on the porch and shoot the bull, and like I say, talk about school days or all the years we worked together, and we knew all the same people, from the power company. So, and then when we was young, we hunted and fished together, with your great grandpa, and we had a good childhood. And in our younger years, we did a lot, with our dad, and he loved to fish and hunt. And he never made us go with him, but he always told us, I'm going hunting in the morning, boys. y'all want to go, get up at this time. But if you don't, you want to stay home, that's up to you. He always left it up to us. But most of the time we went because we enjoyed the time we spent with him.
How is Tick around still? Is Tigger around still?
Yeah, Tigger's still there. He's had Tigger. Tigger's getting pretty old. But yeah. Most of the time when I drive up and he'll come up and hey, Tigger, and I go, roar, and he'll go, roar, like he talks to me.
What? Like he's like what? A decade or 3 or 4? A decade and 4 years old?
What? Tigger?
Yeah.
No, I don't think he's quite that old. That'd make him 14. He's good 10 years old, And for an outside dog, he lived quite a long life, And of course he had that little Dachshund that used to run around with him, but Tigger would go run off, and that little Dachshund would always follow him. And so one day the little Dachshund, he got hit by a car, and got killed. But old Tigger, he's a mess. He's always, he always comes out to greet me, and he always like he's trying to talk to me, But he's been a real good dog. And Uncle Timmy kind of does like your mom. He gets a lot of deer up there, so he puts out corn and feed for them, so they come up. But Tigger don't bother them, And he's cleared out woods kind of around his house, around his trailer and all. He had his trailer looks like new. He had it all redone inside and out, and so it's still in good shape. But yeah, we'll talk about old times and when we used to go hunting and fishing and doing different things. Say we spent our whole life together. We've always lived here, Uncle Timmy lived in Mobile for a couple of years when he was working at Ingalls, but after he moved over and went to work for a power company, then I'd see him almost every day, And he was the one that unloaded the coal with the big clamshell unloader, load out of the barges, and he liked it. He enjoyed his job. He didn't want to leave, but like me, I was ready to leave, but he would have worked as long as he could, but same thing as health, After he had that cancer, and they took the tumor off his brain, and he had another tumor in his chest, but they used radiation and all, and got it all, and it never has come back. But all of that took a lot out of him. He can't do a lot of the things he used to do. It weakened him, but it don't. But he still enjoys, and I do too. I'll go up there and we'll sit on the porch and just talk about old times since we was kids, hunting and fishing with Daddy, and then working together all them years. And we had a bunch of nuts that worked out at the power company, and we sit and talk about them. Some of them's gone already. A lot of them still alive, but we still here. They used to talk about all the stuff. Say them cadet boys is like roaches. You can't kill them. You can stomp them down, but they'll crawl back up. And
That's a good saying, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And, but I need to go up and see him. I usually try to call him before I come, let him know, I'm coming. I say, we'll sit out there and shoot the bull. But,
Before I forget, Pawpaw, can you please, I know we did 4, I just love that small song he did. Can you please tell the one that Uncle Timmy told you and Grandma both? That parody of She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain.
well, that's his song, but I'll sing it.
Just to paraphrase it.
Yeah, he'd have everybody laughing. He'd say, "She'll be coming around the mountain. When the chain on her motorcycle broke, she landed in the grass with the muffler up her ass and her titties playing Dixie on the smoke." And then he'd laugh.
As everyone else will.
Yeah, that's what he got. And,
when there was a pause after smoke, I was thinking, my brain was immediately going through a crueler tone, which was, she become a man, upper smoke. She sizzle on the ground, and then she have a stroke, which is super crueler. I don't know, because they both wrong. I was thinking that.
That ties in with it good.
I love his one better. I love Uncle Timmy's one better.
But, like I say, we've had a lot of laughs and fun together. We've had our differences, but not nothing bad, nothing that ever, we never got really mad at one another, and I'd always go up, try to help him work on his old cars and his motorcycle. Last time I worked on his motorcycle, though, I couldn't get it going. The new technology in cars and motorcycles and stuff changed a lot. Pawpaw was kind of like a shade tree mechanic on that kind of stuff, but Uncle Timmy, he loved his motorcycles. He's still got that one up there, but it's not running. But he really ain't in physical shape to be riding them anymore, but he would if he could.
I always thought, and I still do think, that even when he's in his 50s and 60s, he'd drive him around, that he's absolutely badass at it. I still respect him to this day for it.
Oh, he was, because he said his first car was a motorcycle. He rode motorcycles all his life when he was young, and we used to have a place. He had dirt bikes. There was a place up past the end of our road called a sawdust piles, and it was a big sawdust mountain almost. They used to go dump sawdust up there, and the local dirt bike riders that go up there and ride on them sawdust piles, and he did too all the time. And one time he jumped over a big hill up there, and he came down and landed on another rider. It was an airman, and they both got put in the hospital. But they put them in the same room. And after he got out of the hospital, the other guy did too. The other guy was an airman. He wasn't from here. But every so many years, he'd come down and visit Uncle Timmy, And I mean, he had a lot of friends up there. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
But we both had a good life, We had a lot of fun. Did a lot of things together. Like I said, hunting and fishing. Latter years, we didn't hunt as much, but we fished. We did a lot of fishing together, or go mulleting, throw the cast net.
I need your opinion, Pawpaw. Because we were talking before about Tigger and how he's made it to a decade somehow. Just yesterday, when I was visiting Dad, we stopped by Uncle Kirk, who I haven't seen, I'm kind of say in 5 years, maybe 6. And he, more gray hair on him, but he's still in good and emotional mental health. And he had Oreo, who I've seen when I was younger. Specifically, according to him, about 13 or 14 years old.
Dang.
Like, he's still around. He had dogs before. I mean, we both had dogs before that made it to either 10 years or 14 or 15 years. You ever stop and think, wait, they made it to the 10th year? They need, like, you think all dogs made it like that? They deserve, like, I don't know, like a badge or a Medal of Honor for canines.
Yeah.
Like Oreo or Tigger need one.
Yeah.
Because we have, Camo, he's made it to 11 or 12th year, and you think he needs a Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
Dutch was.
Dutch was 12.
Dutch?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking of Buster.
Buster.
Dutch was almost 20 years old. He went blind and deaf. He'd follow the walls, and
The blind part I didn't know about, actually.
yeah.
Do you remember him?
Of course, I remember them both still.
Dutch, he was outside dog usually lives long. I mean, inside dog usually lives longer, but he was right at 20 years old, and you don't see a lot of dogs that live that long, But he, like I say, he went blind and he went deaf, and we had him and Trinity together. After he passed, Trinity, she went deaf too, but she could still see, But she didn't live as long as him because she was younger than him. She was about 15 or 16.
That's perfect for dog years.
Mm-hmm. But she went into congestive heart failure, so we had to have put to sleep, And
How Buster was, what?
he was right at 20.
Buster?
No, Buster.
Yeah.
Buster was 12 because I got him when I was 60, and he died when I was 72. So he was 12 years old, and he was a good dog too, Paw Paw. Well, you used to go with me to walk him down there, where we go walk on the bay. Do you remember?
I still do to this day.
And y'all gave him to us. Gave him the Pawpaw.
Yeah. Yep. We brought him in as a puppy, and you said, this is your new dog, Paw Paw, and his name is Buster.
I personally wish we had more photos of him as a pup.
Well, we did have, but we lost so many in storms. Our house got flooded, a couple of times, and then in Katrina, the whole house went under. So we lost a lot of pictures. Now, Uncle Clay got out there and he salvaged a lot of those pictures, saved them, even though they was, had went underwater. And I should have drug it out. I'll do it another time. But I still got an album with pictures of him, and all of them were good dogs that we got a lot of enjoyment out of, that we loved, and they loved us,
Yeah, that was the thing is, I was always thinking, like, there are dogs out there, because I was asked just yesterday, actually, this similar question to you and Kurt, but to the woman at Katsu Coffee, like, you've had dogs before in your life that made it to 10, 15 years, and don't you think they made the same question I asked you? And she said, absolutely. I think she said she had about 3 or 4 different dogs, but it's not like not specific breed, like some kind of dog,
Yeah,
but we see them more as family members,
yeah,
like most good-hearted people do.
yeah. Well, we did too.
You ever stop think maybe is it the kind of dog food we give them that don't have any, don't have artificial flavoring? It's like the right amount of dog food, or we care for much. It's not just luck, but it's nutrition. It's nutrition's. I mean, I'm no Cesar Millan, but I wonder if it's
Oh, it makes a difference.
anything we feed them.
It makes a difference in their longevity, you know. Buster, I fed him too much. I was giving him all kind of treats. He got pretty big and fat, you know, but he was always happy.
Before we go forward, the woman behind us, I probably have to edit that. That was Grandma Claire in the background speaking. I do not mind, and she decided she was recording us. I find it truly genuine, and I'm glad she was part of it a bit. So, what was it you were saying, Pawpaw?
I just said, yeah, taking care of your animals and feeding them right and all, they live longer.
Not just dogs, but dogs and cats both. Yes.
We had a couple of cats. Papa ain't a big cat person, but we had a couple.
How many exactly?
Well, it all depends on if you're talking about since I was a kid. We had cats, but they were outside cats. And they'd catch mice and this and that and the other. We didn't have too many inside cats because Grandma kind of allergic, you know. But she loved them. Matter of fact, when we first got married, I got her a little old cat. And shoot, it might have been before we got married. I'm trying to remember his name. She had it a pretty good while, even after we were married. And I wasn't crazy about cats. Grandma liked them, but she was allergic, so, you know. She was standing behind me. She'd remember its name. Her memory's better than Pawpaw's.
It's okay.
But,
I feel we know more dog breeds more than cat breeds, don't you think? Really?
Hmm?
Do you think we know more dog breeds more than cat breeds? Would you
Yeah.
believe it?
Yeah,
Because they're more familiar ones.
right. We had, when we were living up by where your Uncle Clay lives, we had a trailer there, and we had a cat called Callie, and she was a calico, and we had her for a long time. And then she went up missing, and we looked and looked for her, and didn't know what happened to her. And during the winter, when the spring come around, we were cutting the grass, and we had a big rose bush out by the road that goes, the road that goes through that used to go up the hill to where your cousin Richard lived and Aunt Candy and them. And Callie had got hit by a car, and she made it under that rose bush, and that's where she passed away. And we found her, months later. But she was a good cat. She was a cat like Uncle Ben's got a cat that he calls Dog, and because it follows him, he'll go out, it follows him around like a dog would. Not many cats do that, but he could go off and walking in the woods or down the road, and old Dog would follow him all around, and it lived a long time too.
How so? Specifically, how long?
Well, specifically, I'm not sure, but it was at least 10 years, and he was an outside cat, so that was you know.
I feel like that's the specific number people say when they say it's 10 years, like a decade. It feels like it's more 10 years. It could be 12 or 14 years, perhaps. But I guess it depends on what Uncle Ben has to say, if he kept the records, the time record.
We just have to guess, like, we had a dog named Buddy, and he was a Shih Tzu, and before he died, we took him to the vet, and the vet had records.
But Buddy?
Mm-hmm.
Buddy the dog. It's me, but I think that's Bill Clinton's dog. The name of Bill Clinton's dog. I mean, Buddy the dog is here.
But
Alone in the kitchen. There's socks, it's Hillary, and I'm alone at 3 a.m. in the kitchen, and there's all this Buddy the dog here to comfort me. We're both loners. But, that's what I immediately think of. I don't know why.
Yeah, he lived a long time too, and when he passed away, we got that's when we got Dutch, and the reason we knew Dutch had lived so long was because from the vet records. We'd take him to the vet, and the vet would say, you know, Buddy's, 15 years old. He said, I don't know how much, he's real old for a dog, but he lived till he was about 19, and which is a long period for a dog. But he had went blind and deaf, and he used to. We lived over on Van Eaton Circle where we had them upstairs bedroom. You remember the loft bedroom we had?
I do, yes.
And he got so old, he'd follow the walls and all, but he couldn't go up the stairs anymore. At first he could. He'd go up the stairs, but he couldn't come back down them, so he'd stand at the top of the stairs and bark. And I'd have to go up there and get him and bring him back down the stairs, And he was, like I say, he was just a little Shih Tzu, but he was a good little dog. He wasn't scared of nothing. He'd have got between us and an elephant, if he thought something was going to hurt us. And, but they brought us a lot of enjoyment and happiness, and hopefully we gave him a good life, And, he lived a long time. And after he passed, before he passed, somebody threw Trinity out of a car window when she was young.
Oh, this story.
A little Boston we had.
Oh, I knew this story. And it was Uncle Clay that rescued her, right?
Yeah, sure was. Uncle Clay stopped and rescued her and brought her home. And I said, no, we don't know her dog. But we did. We kept her. She was a good little dog. She was real jumpy, scary, but I guess it was the way she was treated when she was younger, whoever had her, But we always treated her good, And she was real scared of, so with Buster, bad weather, when it get lightning and thunder and all, she'd be terrified. But when she got older, she went deaf. And so then I thought she was, because the thunder and stuff used to not scare her anymore. So I wanted to make sure one day she was laying out in the yard sleeping. And I got right over her and I clapped my hands as hard as I could, right over her ears. And she didn't even move. She just still sleeping. So I I knew she was deaf then. It made me understand why the thunder and the weather didn't bother her no more, because she couldn't hear. But she was, you know, she did good. She could still get around good, and she kind of, after Buddy died, she was a little lonely, you know, but
Do you remember that joke? Grandma showed me the footage before yesterday, but I'd just like to hear your. Uncle Timmy told another joke. It's a long one that went off tracks, but he was on a roll of some about a dog pulling a wheelbarrow. The dog pushing a wheelbarrow, and I think his owner was tried to shoot 3 squirrels. Do you remember that one he told?
and that one, I can't quite remember.
And at the end, the punchline was he was some about a deer. Shot a deer. Do you remember that? What he said?
Oh, Uncle Timmy had some stories. I can't remember all of them.
I thought I was going to go a different route when she said.
We had another dog, it's a Doberman, and we took him up by the river, and some hunting dogs come through running a deer, and he fell in with them hunting dogs, and we lost him. And we go back up there for months hunting him, and I say we couldn't find him, and we had told a bunch of people, and there was a fellow we knew, I can't remember his name, but he always said he was the mayor of Woolmarket, but he wasn't. He was just a kidder. But he found our Doberman, and he brought him to our house, you know. And he had been missing for about 3 months. He'd lost a lot of weight, and but he found him pretty close to where we lost him. He come out on the road, and we was happy to get him back. And he still lived another 4 or 5 years. I'm trying to remember his name. It was so long ago. Yeah, he run off chasing a deer, and say he was missing for almost a year.
Oh my God, deer, really?
Yeah. And that man found him. He knew we'd been looking for him, and he called us up. He said, "I think I got your dog." And we went up there, and it was. Coming home from work, he'd hear my truck, and I could look over and the next block, and I could see him running. He was running to beat me back to the house, jumped the fence, and lay down like he had been there all along, you know. And I'd tell him, "You ain't fooling me. I know where you've been." And but he was a big dog, and he got in our neighbor's house. Our neighbor had a little bitty dog, and they left their windows open, and that's how the little dog would go in and out. And so Buster, the Doberman, shoot, wish I could remember his name now. He went in their house, and they all come out screaming and hollering, and I had to go over and get him. Well, there was a mailman that come to our house all the time, and he told me a couple times, he said, "If you ever want to get rid of that dog," he said, "I'll take him." He said, "I got a farm." He said, "I got like 10 acres, you know, animals and all of this." And so one day he come by, and I said, "I'm going to have to get rid of my dog because I'm scared he never did bite nobody, but they were scared of him, and he could jump the fence because he was tall."
You know, we had a specific dog back we gave for Mom's birthday, I believe. She named him Dude, because she has original names, I guess. Original's a strong word. And in the end, Dad would give him away to farm. It's similar thing happened with 3 other dogs we had, and because they were in, 2 out of 3 of them were slightly insufferable. one of them was a big one out of control, and he didn't last more than 2 months. So it's rare that, I don't know, to me it's rare that we have dogs like that last that long. So I'm sure you had dogs your whole life that are both memorable, are more than just a pet, but not a friend, not a pet, a family member.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had them too. We had one that when Hurricane Camille come through, and it was a bad one. I love that little dog. I put him in our shed, and locked him in our shed, and after the storm, when we made it back down to our house, and the water had got real high in the shed, and I thought, my dog's dead, he's going to be drowned in that shed. And I went back and unlocked the door. When I opened it, he dove out and landed in my arms. He had swam around and got on stuff and floated in that shed, and he survived that storm. And he was, I had a lot of special animals, special dogs. That one was special too. We had two little black Vices. We didn't have them together. We had first one. Daddy brought him home. He Pawpaw Pete, and he was abandoned, the dog, and he brought him to the house, and he said he was living like an old hobo. He said, so that's what I named him, my daddy, and he named him Hobo. And he was something else. One time, when we'd play baseball in the yard, and Hobo didn't like nobody messing with us. You didn't come up and mess with us. So if we played baseball in the yard, we'd have to lock him up in the shed. And Uncle Timmy, he had this boy, and we knew him. They got in an argument or something, and they said, we'll settle this after school. And we had a patch of woods behind our house, and we lived right next to Aunt Sherry. You know where Aunt Sherry used to live, down on Boomier. Well, anyway, they met up after school in the woods, and got in a fight, and some of the school kids come because they knew they were going to have a fight. Well, they got in a fight, and the old boy took one swing at Uncle Timmy, and old Hobo had heard him out there. He come flying out of the woods, and he grabbed that boy by the leg and chewed him up. I had to pay for the hospital bill because Hobo was my dog, and he'd never bit nobody before, but he wouldn't let nobody mess with us. He was tough as nails. Uncle Timmy still tells this story. He was sitting on his front steps when we lived in Boomier, and this woman come by with a German Shepherd on a collar, on a leash, and Uncle Timmy was, Hobo, we didn't have a fence around our yard, Hobo wanted to go after the dog, and Uncle Timmy was holding him, and the woman said, well, you better hold that dog. And he goes, well, you better hold yours. And for some reason, I guess he said it a little, she reached down and unsnapped her dog, turned it loose. It was a German Shepherd. So Uncle Timmy turned Hobo loose. Hobo wasn't but about that tall. He was a little black Vice. He took off. He hit that dog. They went in the ditch and rolled around about 4 or 5 times. And that German Shepherd come out, took off down the road. Hobo was right behind him, and the woman was running behind him, calling her dog. A little bit later, here comes Hobo back, huffing and puffing, and all muddy, and bleeding a little bit, but he put that German Shepherd was 3 or 4 times bigger than him. He put it up the road. And,
Like Popeye to Pluto.
yeah.
Just whooped his ass.
Yeah. But, and like I say, you can ask Uncle Timmy that story. He'll tell you. He remembers it, you know. He was younger than me. And we'd go, Pawpaw Pete had built a camper out of plywood. It wasn't no metal fancy camper, but it was a camper, and we'd take it up to our grandma's house up in Sochi, and we'd go squirrel hunting. And boy, he was a heck of a squirrel dog. He'd get after them squirrels, and they'd jump through the trees. Most dogs relied on their nose, but he just didn't. It wasn't just his nose and his eyes. If he got on a squirrel, it didn't get away. He'd always lead us to it. And then when we moved after Camille, when we moved up there where Uncle Timmy's living now, that was my grandma's old house. And anyway, we took our dog with us, and we'd come home from school, and Pawpaw Pete would say, "One of y'all's gonna have to go." You'd hear Hobo way back in the branch barking. Rah, rah, rah. He said, "One of y'all's got to go back there and kill that squirrel, because Hobo ain't gonna leave it." So we'd have to go back in the woods, and he'd have it treed. We'd shoot the squirrel, and he'd come back, boy, like he'd catch it before it hit the ground. He'd come back like he was a big shot. He was a little dog, but he was a big shot.
Now's your chance to be a big shot.
So when Hobo died, so somebody stole him. They knew how good a squirrel dog he was.
Oh my God.
Somebody stole him. But he had puppies with another dog that lived up the road from us, and we knew the man. And so when he got stole, Bo Tally was the man's name. He come by and he said, "If y'all want one of Hobo's puppies," he said, "y'all can come down here and pick one out." So we went down, and one of them puppies looked just like Hobo. So he gave it to us, and we named it Tramp. So we had Hobo as his daddy, and then we had Tramp. And actually, Tramp was the one.
Hobo and Tramp.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, yes.
Tramp was the one that, when we moved after Camille up there, where Uncle Timmy lives now, somebody stole him too. We'd had him a pretty good while, and I say they stole him. I don't know how they managed to get a hold of him, because he wouldn't hardly go to anybody else unless it was one of our friends or people that knew us that stole him, knew how good of a squirrel dog he was, you know, because all you had to do was go in the woods and say, "Find him, boy, find him," and he'd take off in the woods, and you'd hear him, "Yoop, yoop, 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 yoop." And then when he got him treed, he'd go to, you could tell by the way he barked, "Oh, he's got him treed," and we'd go back there and shoot the squirrel, come home and clean him and put him in the freezer. And after we got 4 or 5, then Grandma Lib would make us a squirrel stew, and we'd always save a piece for Tramp, you know.
I remember trying squirrel meat before. It was nice and wrapped up in bacon.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's how all Americans do, wrap bacon around things.
Yeah. But, and he was the same way, Tramp. If we come out of the house with our gun, our shotgun, he knew we was going hunting. He'd get all excited, jumping around, and he'd run to the truck. If Pawpaw Pete had an old truck, had running boards on the side, you know, that you could step on, get up in the truck, he'd jump up on that running board, and when we would go if you roll the window down and let him look out the window, you had to hold both his back legs, because if he saw another dog or, heaven forbid, a squirrel, he'd dive out that window. So you'd be there holding his back legs, pulling him back in. No, Tramp, no. To keep him from jumping out of the truck while we were going down the road. We were scared he'd get killed. You know, he did it a couple times. And we had a lot of enjoyment with them two little old dogs. We growed up with them dogs, and they were special. They were family, like you said. It wasn't just a dog. They were our family.
Yeah. I thank you for having time to talk about your. You probably brought up Hobo before. Hobo and Tramp both, which are I love and enjoy original names you don't hear from dogs.
And they were both identical. They both looked alike. They were black, and they had a little white crest on their chest. And they...
Wasn't Buster like that? Or
Yeah, Buster was black with a white chest. He was a lot bigger than them. They were Feist, is a type of dog. Buster got a lot bigger than them, the little Feist. But for their size, they was bad to the bone. Said I've seen them put many big dogs up the road, and the kids would like to say, "Come over and play baseball." Y'all gonna lock Tramp up because we couldn't play ball, because if anybody chased us, you know, like running the bases or something, Buster would Tramp would get a hold of them. So they'd make us tie him up or put him in the shed so we could play ball, because you didn't chase us. If you chased us, that dog was latching on to you. He was always there to protect us, look after us, you know. And we'd leave and go all over the place, go down on the bay and all, and he'd come with us. And Mama never worried about us, because she knew that little old dog, he'd give his life to protect us. Yeah. So they, like I say, they were special dogs. They were something else.
Thank you, Pawpaw, for sharing me a story of them both, and I appreciate your time to talk together.
I appreciate it too, buddy. It reminds me of good times.
Yeah, and I hope the rest of your day treats you well, and everyone too.
Oh yeah. They were something.
Yeah.